at peace with the verdict?
I'm at peace with it. There is pretty substantial circumstantial evidence that he killed her.
With Matt Baker in prison, his two daughters, Kenzie and Grace, are now virtual orphans, living with their paternal grandparents and traveling once a month back to Waco to visit Carrie's parents. In their combined 24 years, these children have suffered the death of a sister in what they were told was the suicide and abandonment by their mother. And finally, the awful realization that their beloved father has been convicted of her murder. A custody battle is already underway between the grandparents.
The most tragic victims, those sweet, sweet babies. You took their mother and then you fed them lies, Matt. You fed them lies and then you erased her from their lives.
It was not a good day for the minister. He'd been found guilty of killing his wife, sentenced to 65 years in prison, and then had to sit there and listen to his mother-in-law let him have it.
I'm talking to you, Matt, today, okay? You haven't looked at me in almost 4 years. Can you look at me today? For a little while, okay?
Why was it so important to you that you say to him, look at me?
He has never made eye contact with me since Carrie died. He's never looked at me. I think he knew I could see through him. And I wanted him to see me. And when I did, I don't know why, but I felt pity for him. I saw fear.
Linda Doolin had been waiting 4 years to deliver this emotional message to her son-in-law, and it was powerful.
We were so blessed to have Carrie in our lives for 31 years. And how she loved us. And Matt, she loved you. But more than anything, she loved her girls. Her love for Kenzie, Cassidy, and Grace was engraved on her soul. On her soul. And then you took her from us, Matt. You discarded her like she was yesterday's trash. You murdered the mother of your children, and I still can't wrap my head or my heart around this.
And with that, the mother of the murdered Carrie Baker, the bubbly cheerleader who loved children so much, she not only raised her own, she taught others at the local schoolhouse, promised her daughter she would raise Kenzie and Grace not in hate, but in love. And as hard as it was for anyone in that courtroom to believe, in forgiveness.
But thank goodness this journey doesn't end here. Because this isn't going to be about heartache. You see, Matt, you were never going to win this one. What you did was horrific. However, in order to heal, in order to point the way for our own granddaughters, we forgive. Because that's the only way, Matt, that love makes the way. So that eventually, just as in this case, love trumps evil.
As of 2011, Matt Baker remains in prison and is appealing his conviction. He'll be eligible for parole in 2039. Kenzie and Grace Baker remain in the custody of Matt's parents. I'm Chris Cuomo.
When you first opened that door,
my wife naked laying on the bed.
Carrie's family hoped suing him would unlock hidden evidence and prompt a criminal indictment. But still, it did not come. And Matt Baker continued life as a free man 3 years after Carrie's death.
I think a lot of people thought that, the case was sitting on a shelf somewhere. We were actively doing things like the DNA, the fingerprinting, talking to the pathologist, doing everything we could.
Still, not enough. Nothing worked. Until...
Finally, we turned to Vanessa Bowles, the alleged girlfriend, and We have an investigator who's been very talented in getting people to confess to things, Abden Rodriguez.
I picked up a lot of red flags during the interview from she not telling me the truth.
Abden Rodriguez is a cop's cop, not flashy, sort of an Hispanic Columbo. Looks like he was never born to wear a suit. But he has a way of earning confidence of those for whom he is working.
Abden Rodriguez always knew she knew everything. He always did.
And more importantly, he often strikes fear into those whom he is investigating. Not with threats, but by knowing the facts. Before his interviews with Vanessa Bowles, he took meticulous notes in his pad and called her on any little mistake or lie.
I told her I'm going to gather enough.
Her daughter's death, and yet silently rooting Vanessa on.
What I saw from Vanessa's testimony was a man who was much more evil than even I believed he was.
And the worst was still to come. Vanessa Bowles says Matt told her he tried the milkshake idea, but the Ambien he put in her drink had a strong taste.
He sent an email and said she did not drink the drink. He said she took a sip of it and said that it tasted like lead. And so then he said he took a drink and said, oh, well, the ice cream must have been bad.
Shockingly, Matt Baker, she says, then told her he was not finished. He was determined to kill his wife, and his mistress knew all about it beforehand.
So you were somewhat implicit in all of this?
For keeping my mouth shut and not doing the right thing, yes, I was.
And then Vanessa Bowles, the other woman, took Carrie's mother Linda, the jury, and the courthouse right into the crime scene. Kids sleeping in their room, mom and dad down the hall behind closed doors.
And what did he tell you happened that night?
He said earlier that day he had gotten big horse pills, which were sex stimulus pills. He said they were capsules that you could open. He told me he put a load of Ambien in there that he crushed up. He said he bought some handcuffs and some other toys like that. He said he handcuffed her to the bed, started kissing her and touching her all over until she fell asleep.
Times he wasn't that good at it. His credibility seriously strained in this exchange about shopping for those wedding rings 2 weeks after Carrie's death.
Well, and I will say this, we never looked for engagement rings.
She didn't try on engagement rings.
If I never saw her try on engagement rings, and I'm there looking for earrings for Grace.
That story's complete bogus. I read about that in the Waco Tribune Herald. We never went there for earrings.
So you observed Matt with this blonde woman trying on rings, right?
So do you think Vanessa and the jewelry store shop person got together to concoct this story?
No, if she was trying on rings, I don't know. I'm looking for earrings for my daughter, so.
Ah, Vanessa Bowles. What does Matt Baker think of her now?
Here she is, someone who you thought was very special to you.
Could have been.
And in your mind, she must have been betraying you.
I don't know if I honestly felt it was betrayal. That wasn't in my mind because it wasn't like we had a deal or anything like that.
But when you're sitting there and you're watching her attack the very heart of your defense,
right,
rather effectively, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking, which story do you believe? The one she tells the police, the one she tells the private investigator? Every story was different.
He was a complete, and still is, a manipulative liar who took me, my vulnerable state, and made me believe everything he said.
What's her motive, Matt? What does she have to gain by lying?
Once a month back to Waco to visit Carrie's parents. In their combined 24 years, these children have suffered the death of a sister in what they were told was the suicide and abandonment by their mother. And finally, the awful realization that their beloved father has been convicted of her murder. A custody battle is already underway between the grandparents.
The most tragic victims, those sweet, sweet babies. You took their mother and then you fed them lies, Matt. You fed them lies and